cool little fish, one of a kind, true oddball. So that's what I look for in a fish, small, colorful, and peaceful. Interesting fish you just don't see around that often, so I'm calling it an oddball. Hey everybody, it's Dan, your friendly fishmonger at dansfish.com, where we're on a mission to humanely source, maintain, and transport aquarium fish to our customers. Speaking of which, I'm going to show you some aquarium fish today, but not just any aquarium fish. These are the oddballs. Let's start with these guys. This is Geophagus Cargoensis. It comes from the Caguazá, I think, province in Paraguay. Down in Paraguay, it's more temperate than tropical. So these guys do like it warm, but they can take it a little cooler than other fish. What's nice about this fish is it's one of the smallest of the geophagine type fish. These guys only get to up to about 4 inches. They are also an interesting fish on how they spawn. Some of the Geophagus and Geophagus are mouth brooders, some are substrate spawners. These do both. It just depends on the conditions. Sometimes they'll form a tight pair bond and be a mouth brooding species. Other times they won't form a tight pair bond and they'll be a substrate breeding species. It just depends on the conditions that they find themselves in. This is one of the hardiest little fish. It doesn't get big and it's absolutely beautiful. So if you like Geophagus and Geophagus Cargoensis, not a bad one to take a look at. Cinebotia robusta gets 3.5 to 4 inches. Good sized, interesting loach out of China. These are a gregarious species, so think like clown loaches or other botiid type fish that need to be in groups. That's these. They're fairly peaceful with each other and peaceful with other fish, but they are very fast to the food. They eat anything and they love to eat. So you drop a pellet in there, they just go whoop, and they kind of mob the food. So be aware of that when you're choosing tank mates. This one is a real oddball. These are the black lancer catfish. These come from Sumatra. They get to maybe 8-9 inches, but they can still go in a community aquarium with lots of species of fish because their mouth is tiny. So these guys come from these very large, muddy, silty rivers. And what they're doing is they're going around in the mud with this tiny little, it reminds me of the mouth of like an elephant nose without the trunk, just kind of a little hole. And they're going around in that mud and silt and looking for these tiny little invertebrates and crustaceans and worms and things and sucking those out of the mud. Big fish, tiny mouth, and very peaceful with other community fish. I think that they're just a fascinating, neat fish. To me, it's like Asia's answer to the mammarid. They're very easy to feed in captivity. They'll eat pellets if we put them in there. They'll eat flakes, they'll eat frozen foods, they'll eat live foods. They're not picky. It just has to be small enough that they can suck it up in their mouth. So anything much larger than a bloodworm, they might not be able to eat very well. Really interesting fish though, kind of one of a kind. So this is another oddball. This is the Burmese clouded archerfish. These are the ones that were behind me in the 125-gallon tank for years and years, if you watch the old live streams. The reason I like this archerfish, all archerfish are cool, but this is a freshwater species. So you don't have to mix brackish water or salt into your water to keep this species. It comes from Myanmar in pure freshwater environments. Archerfish, if you've ever watched a nature documentary about rivers and fish, you've probably seen them in there. They're the ones that spit up and knock insects out of trees. The insect then falls in the water and the fish eats it. And they have a really neat adaptation for that. They have a channel across the roof of their mouth. Then they have their tongue that they kind of form a tube between their tongue and that channel. And they're like the gleek champions. They can shoot accurately, spit accurately, gleek accurately for up to 5 feet. And when the European settlers, or colonists I suppose, went to India, they'd stand by the rivers smoking and their cigarettes would go out and they'd be like, what's going on? Eventually they figured out that the archerfish in the river thought that these glowing embers were like fireflies and were spitting and shooting out their cigarettes. So that's how the Europeans figured out what an archerfish is. They eat anything that floats. Once it falls past like the top third of the water column, then they still might go down and get it, but they don't eat as well down below. So you want to feed them floating foods, but they'll eat flakes, they'll eat pellets, live, frozen, it doesn't matter. But the funnest thing to feed them, of course, is like crickets and flies and stuff, so that you can watch them shoot them out of the sky. And we have seen them do that. Sometimes we can put an insect on the bottom of the lid and they'll shoot up at it. Or if you drop a little pellet and it starts rolling across the top of the lids are transparent enough that they'll shoot at the pellet, trying to knock it into the water. Really fun fish, really unique, and true freshwater species, so you can keep this one long term without having to worry about salt mixtures, which is why I keep this one. Here's a tetra, but it's a bit of an oddball tetra. It's the giant spotted emperor tetra, or the pink spotted chaco tetra, or the Kaibrutsi tetra. One reason why it's different is it's lived isolated from a lot of other tetras. It comes from Colombia, from the Chaco region, and that's that small region between the mountains and the Pacific Ocean. Most of the aquarium fish that come from Colombia come from the eastern side, where you have the mountains and then they go down to the vast Amazon plain. But these come from a little niche on the western side. So they've turned into these big fish. They get about 3 inches. They have these beautiful brown spots and often red and pink spots on them as well. It just depends on their mood. Interesting fish you just don't see around that often. So I'm calling it an oddball. Guess I should mention that all the fish we're showing you today are available at dansfish.com. We make our living by selling fish, so pardon my little shill here. Let's get back to looking at some fish. This is Betta Samuram. It's very different than your typical Betta splendens. It's a wild type betta. As you notice, we have lots of them in here and they're not killing each other. That's because most betta species are actually peaceful. We've just bred the Betta splendens to be very vicious because it was used for centuries in fights. So it's been bred to be pugnacious. But these fish are quite peaceful. These belong to the Betta bellica complex. They get 3 to 3.5 inches or so. Beautiful emerald coloring on the scales, really nice iridescence. And my favorite thing about this fish is this. So they're not shy at all, right? Look at this. They're not hiding, they don't care. They're like, feed me. They want to come up and interact and get food. And when I do this, they're doing it. They will come. Do you see them nipping at my hand? They'll come and like that one on my thumb. They exfoliate you. It feels like rough sandpaper across your skin. Look at them go on my middle finger there. That's my favorite thing. If you've got some dead skin on your hand, you just stick it in here. They'll take care of you. Betta Samuram, I just love interacting with these guys. I love the exfoliation. This is the prettiest Leperinus I've ever seen. These are the strawberry Leperinus. It might be Leperinus granti or in that complex, but we don't know exactly what the species is yet. It's still undescribed. But what I like about this is it's peaceful. The problem with most Leperinus is they're jerks. And they're jerks that grow big. So awesome fish, really interesting, but grows into a big jerk. These guys don't. They're small and they're peaceful. So the literature I've been reading says that they get 6 to 7 inches, 5 to 6 inches, somewhere around 6 inches. But I don't know if that's true. We've had a group, geez, how long has it been? It's been over a year, and they haven't got bigger than 3 to 4 inches. Constant fresh water changes, tons of food, one of our favorite fish, so we pay a lot of attention to them. 3 to 4 inches. Absolutely beautiful for a Leperinus. It doesn't get better than this for Leperinus. So this is similar to a Leperinus, but it comes from Africa. This is the Distachottis. This is the dwarf green Distachottis. Ours comes from the Lefini River in the Congo. Basically, a fish that adapted to the same niche as the Leperinus, so it has a lot of the same character traits and a lot of the same diet and things like that. Just like the Leperinus, these go around and they pick at biofilm and algae and detritus, so a true omnivore that does need vegetation in the diet, so make sure you rotate veggies into the diet. Spirulina flakes, algae wafers, they'll chew on zucchini and other fruits. I guess technically zucchini is a fruit, so I'm right. Other veggies. What I like about this species is, first of all, it stays small. Second, it's really pretty. It's green. It's got these bright, spangled, iridescent glitter scale things across its side. How's that for an accurate description? Glitter scale things. So that's what I look for in a fish. Small, colorful, and peaceful. By the way, if you like this stuff, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to subscribe, we're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, so that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Hey, here are the glass headstanders. This is a real oddball. It's got like these buck teeth, looks kind of vicious, but they get along together great. Now, if you keep them with other fish, be aware they can nip scales and they might nip fins, so you want to keep them with other fish that are kind of robust and semi-aggressive. I wouldn't call it an aggressive fish, but I would call it a semi-aggressive fish. These have spawned for us. You can keep this with other species as long as they're robust and can handle a semi-aggressive tank mate. All right, this one's really interesting. This is the toothpick fish. And some people call it a mini pipefish, but I don't think it's actually related to a pipefish. It just is adapted to a similar niche. It's elongated, it's got kind of that pipefish real slow swim routine, and it's a micro predator. So it's going to be picking tiny crustaceans and worms and other invertebrates off of plant leaves and detritus and decaying leaves on the bottom. Peaceful, really easy to keep, provided you feed live foods. These are not going to eat well on dry foods. You want baby brine shrimp. We'll often put scuds in the tank. They won't eat the adult scuds. They're that small. They only get an inch, maybe a tiny bit over an inch, and they have a tiny little mouth. Really adapted for micro predators. These are a cave spawner. They spawn like a peacock gudgeon. So they'll pick a cave. You can use a little pipe. They'll lay the eggs, usually on the roof of the little cave. And then the male will guard them until they're free swimming, just like a peacock gudgeon would. Cool little fish, one of a kind, true oddball, and absolutely fascinating to watch as they slowly cruise around and look for little baby brine shrimp and stuff to snatch up. That's our oddballs. We have some others, but those are the ones that we're showing you today. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all of our customers for your support and your orders. That keeps us in business. Everyone here at dancefish.com is very grateful for all your business. Thank you so much. So until next time, I sincerely hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.